The Dublin-based Motor Enthusiasts Club hosted the penultimate weekend of the 2011 Connaught Competition Engines Irish Hillclimb and Sprint Championship for the Frank Keane Trophy. They used the same venue for Saturday as last year, a hill that has become popular with drivers at Knoll, north of the nation's capital. For Sunday's event, they brought us further north into County Louth to a new venue, White River Park kart racing circuit, just off Junction 12 on the M1. Rory Stevens got out early on the first run, just before a rain shower, and led the event after the first go. Simon McKinley put in a strong effort on the wet road, as it looked like it would rain for the day, but no amount of rain dancing on Stevens' part could prevent the road from drying out as the weather surprisingly improved in the afternoon. McKinley was quick to re-establish his dominance on run 2, and set his fastest time of the day on run 3 out of 4. John Byrne was his nearest challenger, ahead of Brendan Keane. A nice little contest has emerged between these two for second place in the overall championship, which will go down to the wire in Donegal. Rory Stevens ended up 4th ahead of Alan Kesey's Griffin. Dermot Nolan was 6th overall in the Reynard, and 3rd in Class 7. 4th in Class 7 was Neil Anderson, who is becoming a regular in his ward. Brendan Harper was 5th in his Delta, despite a wobble on the last run. Patrick Haughey was on his own in Class 8 on Saturday, but must be looking forward to his home event in Donegal in a fortnight's time. Also running solo was Patrick Carberry in his four-wheel drive Mitsubishi Evo 7 in Class 9. John Mahon was 2nd in Class 6, behind John Byrne. These two are very close in the class championship, heading to the final weekend. Siobhan McCann was 3rd in the class, but was delighted to finish 9th overall. Deirdre Delaney was 4th in Class 6, and also had a strong overall result in 14th. Edwin Reinhardt was 5th and completed the top 20 overall. Colm Dunphy held off Enda Byrne in Class 5. Byrne, 2nd in Class 5, had a bit of explaining to do after 2 offs during the day. 3rd was Scott Milligan, who will be clerk of the course on Sunday's event. Reid Harper, who was holding 2nd place in their class championship, was 4th in her V. Vincent O'Reilly won historic Class 4 on handicap from Alan Kesey. Wolfgang Schneier was 3rd in an MG Midget. Mick O'Shea was 4th in the MGB GT. Matt Dunn in his MG Midget split the Anglia duo of Dermot Quigley and Jerry Freeman. They were struggling with carburettor and electrical gremlins. Frank Nuttall was in good company with some other great vintage machinery. Ken McAvoy, as always, fully committed in his Austin 7 Special. Mark Brennan was 10th in the Albus 1250, and Ed Cassidy was 12th in the Iona Special. Pete Murray split them in the BMW 6 Series. The top 3 in Class 3A were very close. Nick O'Carroll in an Indy was fastest from Peter Boggan's Escort and Ian Quinn's Mini Busa. James Hughes was 4th in a Honda Integra. Darren Martin Byrne, fortunately, did not need to issue this message on the Citroen Zara they shared. Cyril McCabe and Brendan O'Mahony were another double driving pair in their Alpha 147. John Whitley was hampered by a broken engine mount on his Golf GTI, and Megan Kesey made her hill climb debut just weeks after her appearance at the Irish Festival of Speed in Adair. Declan Cundlin is always quick when he comes out. He was fastest in Class 2 from championship leader Tommy Murphy. Billy White tried out a drifting Corolla on the hill, but John Bradley was even more sideways in his Opel Corsa. Detlef Hare entered a BMW 328 in Class 1 this weekend. Frank Manweller was 4th in the class in his Hillman Imp. Trish Daly improved her times by over 4 seconds during the day as she continues to learn the Mini and claimed 3rd in class. Elaine O'Reilly closed on Nigel Bryson as the day continued, but Nigel prevailed by just over 4/10 of a second. They continued to swap times on the kart track on Sunday. O'Reilly led after run 3, but Bryson found another second on the 4th run and has moved himself into the lead of the class championship. Trish Daly was 3rd again and is now tied with Ray Cunningham for 2nd in the championship. Simon McKinley made an appearance in the Cinquecento he normally lends out and was 4th in the 1100cc car. Detlef Hare was 5th again. Jack Newman was a visitor in Class 2 with his Honda Civic and beat Declan Cundlin's Escort. Also displacing a Hillclimb regular was Billy White in the Corolla, who headed off Tommy Murphy's Civic. Nick O'Carroll was again fastest in Class 3A with his Indy. Seamus Hobbs brought out his Maguire Mini for second in the class and 10th overall. Ian Quinn was third, gaining useful points in his championship campaign. John Whitley also picked up some useful points and is second in the 3A rankings. Megan Kessie must have felt more at home on the track on Sunday in her Ginetta G20. Rory Stevens tried an interesting technique, crossing the line backwards in the Radical, only to be copied by Simon McKinley driving the Lantnow, who reckoned this saved braking for the corner after the finish. Who's to argue, as this was the fastest time of the day. Trevor Cullen reckoned 2 wheels were enough on the narrow track in the Mark III Escort. He managed to hold off the Mark II of Douglas Richardson. Frank Nuttall was the winner in the well-supported historic class on day 2, in his trusty Graham on handicap. Vincent O'Reilly was second in the Austin Healey Sprite. Alan Kessie, who was fastest on scratch, was calculated to be third. Wolfgang Schneier was fourth in his MG Midget, ahead of Matt Dunn's more cut-down version of the same car. Jerry Freeman and Dermot Quigley had a better day in the Ford Anglia. Liam Ruth is becoming a familiar face at the hill climbs now in his midget. Mick O'Shea, as always, was pushing his MGB as hard as it would go. Ken McAvoy and Ed Cassidy were getting a good workout in the Austin and Iona Specials, both cars requiring a lot of leaning to get around the corners. Pete Murray split them again in the 6 Series BMW, which would love to be on a bigger track. Robbie Parks, a visitor in Class 5, showed great ability to win in his V. Colm Dunphy was second and will have to travel to Donegal to hold his lead in the championship from Breed Harper, who is now just a point behind him after finishing third here. As well as being second overall to McKinley, John Byrne won his class. Second in the class consolidated that position for John Mahan from Deirdre Delaney, third on the day and in the class standings. Edwin Reinhardt was fourth, but he's not contesting the whole championship this year. Third overall was a great result for Neil Anderson in the Ward. He was second in Class 7. Dermot Nolan was third in class and fourth overall, a position he also holds in the championship. He will have to stay ahead of Rory Stevens in Donegal if he wants to keep that position. Fourth in class and seventh overall has kept Brendan Keane on track for second in the class championship and third overall, despite clutch problems. Fifth in the class means Brendan Harper has fourth in the bag. Championship timekeeper Cecil Orr had an ideal position to work from at the kart venue. He showed us how the tag heuer system records the times. Patrick Haughey had company in Class 8 on Sunday. John Dugan perfected his flamboyant style to win the class after runs 4 and 5. Third was John F. Golden in his Peugeot 206. Simon McKinley cannot now be beaten mathematically in the championship and will now hold the Frank Keane Trophy for another year. Could he do it in the Escort next year? A lot of people would like to see if he could. The final weekend of the year will be held at Knockalla in Donegal in just a couple of weeks.